you.
I have to go home and change my clothes.
Why don't I have sound out of this? Here we go. Good morning. I'm Gregory Mason, and welcome to First Presbyterian Church for Olympia Brown Unitarian Universalist Church's service. We'll start with some announcements. As I've mentioned before, the church office is closed during this month of July, and there will be no weekly news sent out in July and August. In the meantime, church announcements can be sent to me. Bill Garvey and Mary Graham are available to be contacted with urgent congregational needs while the office is closed.
Hi, I'm Pamela Smiley. I'm your representative to RIC, the Racine Interfaith Coalition. We had a meeting on Thursday, and they asked me to invite you all to participate in their Get Out the Vote canvassing and tabling. It will be the next 4 Saturdays. If you're interested, I can give you the RIC location where it will all meet. There's also a protest today at 4 o'clock at the courthouse about the prison situation in Wausau.
Good morning, Diane Lang. I want you to give a standing ovation to Kayla Matz. She's like our top postcard person. This is for the Citizen Climate Lobby, and she's reminding people to vote. So 100 postcards she turned in this morning. If you would like to be a part of this fun action, Jody Spencer is hosting a postcard writing to vote no on the amendments coming up in August. And also, we will be doing vote forward letters that will be held until October and then sent out. So Joe Pooroy and I will be at Jody Spencer's this Wednesday from 1 until 3. We have room for 7 more people, so you have to get to me fast after today. Thank you.
The next Raise Right order deadline for paper submissions is July 21st. See me if you need a form, or you can print one from the website under Giving and select Script. Thank you to our volunteers today, our ushers, Christina Mandrogan and Pam Smiley, our Zoom host, Maria Scott, and our coffee hour hosts, Joe Pooroy, Tom Holbus, and Suzanne Landis. And we are happy to have Mei Chang with us again this week on the piano. Please join us for coffee hour in Erman Hall following the service. For those joining us on YouTube, log into Zoom after the service for your coffee hour. The link is in today's email. But I have one final announcement. Please remain seated after the postlude. And those at home on YouTube, please stay on YouTube. The search team will be giving an update about the status of our search for a new minister.
Welcome. I am Kayla Matz. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I will be leading our service today, and let's give a big welcome to our friends near and far on YouTube. So our welcoming words today are from Alex Riley. It is good to be together in this co-created sacred space where all are welcome. How you experience or express gender is welcome here. Who or how you love is welcome here. Where you are from and where you are in your journey is welcome here. Whether you come full of energy or find yourself running on empty, you are welcome here. You are part of a beloved community that is sacred because each of us is sacred. Each of us is always held in a larger love. It is good to be together. So now for our chalice lighting. Today we have my two kids, Betsy and Otto Matz. Thank you, guys. These words are written by Sarah Ruth Wakoye Davis called Opening to the Light. We light this chalice with an open heart. We light this chalice with resolve. We light this chalice with tears still fresh on our cheeks. We light this chalice in hope, a tiny flame we nurture. We light this chalice with reverence for this place, for these people, for this time. We light this chalice with all our souls longing to be who we are, to be who we will become, to be ourselves. Thanks, sweetness. We light this chalice in self-love, in giving love, in holy love. Sorry, the hymn is number, and I forgot my paper, 1008 in the teal hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
We're good? There we go. Thank you, Bill, up in the balcony. All right, it is time for our message for all ages. So anybody who is young, feeling young, young at heart, or if you just want to be closer to the pictures, come on up. All right. Especially, I know we have some guests today, so come on up if you want to see my story. And I'm going to stand by this microphone today because it's working. Sometimes we're flexible like that. All right, so a question, and this can be for all of you out in the pews as well. Have you ever done something that feels perfect? Like a picture, or a dance move, or you baked something, or you made something, or you did something cool, and it just felt, you're like, I couldn't have done that any better. It was just perfect. Anybody ever done something like that? I've got a couple things here and there, right? All right. I see a lot of people going, All right, can we be perfect all the time? No. You can try. I mean, it's nice to try to do your best all the time. We should do our best all the time. But perfect is a hard word. And the guy in my story today, his name is the perfect Percival Priggs. And he's going to learn about how hard it is to be actually perfect all the time. And I know this is a really good story for me, because I like to really think that I'm doing the best I can all the time, and it gets a little stressful. All right, so let's hear what's up with Percival here. Percival Priggs was perfect. His parents were perfect. His grandparents were perfect. Even his pets were perfect. That's a lot. They each had a shelf to display their awards. Now, I'm not going to read all of these because it would take us a while, but there's a lot of really good ones in here. The Edison Light Bulb Award for the most ingenious invention, the Lyrical Miracle Poetry Cup, the Shakespearean Scroll. All of them have a lot of awards. And they were always competing for more. Percy found the business of being perfect quite exhausting. But he was scared his parents wouldn't love him if he wasn't perfect. So he said nothing, and if you ever asked him how he was, he would smile his prize-winning smile and say, "I'm perfect, thank you." Does this sound like a good plan? Probably not. Well, one weekend, the family was hard at work preparing for their upcoming competitions. Percy was entered in so many categories. He didn't even like half the things he had been entered in. Now again, big old list. We're not going to read them all now, but like checkmate chess cup. He has to defeat the Russian champ. That's his to-do. I know all the grown-ups out there are like, dang, yeah, that's a big to-do. All right, and he doesn't even like half of them? So he came up with a plan to finish faster. He made a slight miscalculation. Percy's rocket was definitely not perfect, and now neither was anything else. Oh, his parents were going to be furious. But they weren't. "Percy, are you all right?" "I'm okay, Mom, but I've ruined everything. I'll never be perfect like you and Dad." Mrs. Briggs just laughed. "Maybe there's something we should show you." These are all the things that didn't quite work out. And look at this. Now take a minute, look at Percival. They're up in his attic. That's a lot of stuff that hasn't worked out. Like I can see some of their robots are experiment 432 and 924. That's a lot of robots. Your father didn't win any prizes for this experiment, Mrs. Priggs said. And your mother's coconut chili cake wasn't exactly a hit, said Mr. Priggs. This was your father a week after he won the Spick and Span Car Award. And your mother's first piano recital didn't go too well. Then your father wore the wrong glasses to the Heavenly Hedges competition. Ooh, do you see that one down there? He cut off people's hair instead of the hedges. Uh-oh. And your mother's dog training didn't always go as planned. We're not perfect, but we love what we do, so we keep trying. But I don't even like much of what I do. Well, then find out what you do love. So, Percy found things he loved. And he tried. And he failed. And tried again. Now, Percy's shelf looks a lot different. But his favorite award of all is one he didn't need to earn. And do you see what it says on his cup? Best son ever, S-O-N. So his parents are proud of him no matter what he does. And that's the end. It's kind of a good lesson for all of us. All right, so now we're not going to do a perfect blessing, but let's stand up and do the best we can to bless ourselves on the way out. If you don't know it, you can take a look at me while we do it.
There are many ways. Can you hear me? Okay, there we are. There are many ways we give to the life of the church, and the monetary offering is just one of these ways. Each month, we partner with a local organization and share the money we collect. Our partner this month is the Journey Disaster Response Team, a faith-based volunteer service organization helping communities prepare and recover from disasters, as well as helping to solve food insecurity by bringing food and other supplies into underserved communities. Thank you, as always, for your generosity. Part of being in community is sharing our joys and our sorrows with one another. We do this in many different ways. Sometimes we share them out loud, sometimes we light candles, sometimes we share in a completely different ritual. We all experience comfort in sharing and holding one another in different ways. This morning we're going to light candles while May shares some music with us. So please come forward if you'd like to light a candle this morning. And we light one final candle for the joys and sorrows that are on the hearts and minds of our beloveds joining us online. There is a love holding us always. May we rest in that love. Amen and blessed be. All are invited to join in singing There Is a Love.
This reading is called We Are Whole by Beth Lefevre. We are whole even in the broken places, even where it hurts. We are whole even in the broken places, the places where fear impedes our full engagement with life, where self-doubt corrupts our self-love, where shame makes our faces hot and our souls cold. We are whole even in those places where perfectionism blunts the joy of full immersion into person, place, activity, where good enough does not reside except in our silent longings, where our gaps must be fast-filled with substance, accomplishment, or frenzied activity, lest they gape open in disgust. We are whole where we would doubt our own goodness, richness, fullness, and depth, where we could doubt our own significance, our own profoundness. We are whole even in our fragility, even where we feel fragmented, alone, insubstantial, insufficient. We are whole even as we are in process, even as we stumble, even as we pick ourselves up again, for we are whole, we are whole. So today my message is about perfectionism and looking at flaws in ourselves and others. I was very much, I still am very much like that character Percival, and perfectionism has ruled my whole life pretty much. I always had to have the top grades. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia when I was 20, and they told me I may not finish my college degree on time. I finished that early, I got my PhD quickly, and then when I became a mom, I was gonna be the best mom possible. Fast forward a couple years later, I had my third auto June 2020, and I was working from home without daycare for 18 months, and I thought, I'm gonna be the best employee, I'm gonna be the best teacher, I'm gonna be the best mom, until my body just literally started giving up on me. And it really made me start looking at perfectionism and looking at where and how people look at flaws specifically. So today I wanted to talk about flaw finding in ourselves and in our community. When I notice or think about one of my flaws, I've added a practice of asking myself, is this a flaw or is it me being human? Is it a flaw or is it patriarchy? Is it a flaw or is this an essential part that makes me, me? Is this a flaw or is this perfectionism talking? So I'm going to talk a bit about this from a personal standpoint and a community outlook. But before I do so, I want to explain what I mean by a flaw. When I talk about flaws, I mean traits about who I am and my personality that I view as imperfections. Personality traits that if I could just pluck them off of me, I would be more perfect, more lovable, and I'd be more palatable to others. But what if no one has personality traits that are flaws? What if flaw finding is a part of perfectionism to keep us all down, keep us disconnected from one another, and keep us from truly appreciating all that makes us human? I strongly believe in the Unitarian Universalist value that all people are sacred and whole just as we are in this moment, period. But if we are focused on our own flaws and the flaws of others, then how are we living this truth? It's black and white thinking that ranks human traits. If you and I are already sacred and whole, how can I hope to pluck out flaws for myself? What if I finally succeed? Let's say I finally pluck out this flaw for myself, but it then takes away all my joy and all that makes me me. And this is different from bettering our lives, healing, learning more about ourselves and our world, and other important parts of spiritual and emotional growth. It's personality traits like easygoing, stubborn, reserved, outgoing, spontaneous, a planner. So I'm talking about flaws as personality traits about ourselves that that internally we wish we didn't have or wish we could change. Dr. Brené Brown describes perfectionism as a way of thinking that if I just always say the perfect thing, look the perfect way, and act the perfect way, then others will finally respect me and find me worthy of love. The following are words from Reverend Sarah Gibb Millsbaugh. Perfectionism is one of the hallmarks of Unitarian Universalist culture and also a hallmark of what Tema Okun and Kenneth Jones name as white supremacy culture. There are some definite upsides to seeking perfection, especially when it keeps us always learning, always striving to live up to our professed ideals. But perfectionism has a cost, a serious spiritual cost. It keeps us focused on the negative rather than nurturing the positive. Internally, it feeds our own shame and our own status anxiety. Relationally, it makes our friends, family, and coworkers feel less seen, less appreciated, less loved. And when we approach our faith communities from a stance of perfectionism, we fail to value our own and others' contributions. We distance ourselves from the joy, the ministry, the blessings we can receive, because it's not just right. We don't tolerate the genuine human shortcomings of our community, our ministers, our staff, our leaders, and we become resentful toward one another. So back to my thoughts. Instead of falling into our society's systems of perfectionism and competitiveness, I think it's important to rethink all flaws, not just our own inner flaws. Traits are not on a scale of best to worse. Traits are not something you can compete over. Traits shouldn't be used to be judged. If I am sacred and whole just as I am, that means everyone is sacred and whole, even if our personality traits are nothing alike. We can call each other into kindness and into growth without perfectionism and flaw finding, because growth can still occur even if we don't want to change our personality or change the personalities of others. Growth is improving and learning more, the act of seeking, while perfectionism is trying to rid yourself of traits, hiding parts of yourself, and is rooted in judgmental thinking. So in most situations that I face, I'm always trying to kind of like hide, apologize for, pluck out my method of getting tasks done. Perfectionism tells me that time management is by far my biggest issue towards being the best version of me. I always get tasks done, but I have not ever met a person that does it like me. Words that I would use to describe myself are, I just have an utter lack of time management. I do not like planning the future. I'd rather go with the flow. I physically cannot follow a daily routine or schedule, even though I try on a daily basis. I lose track of time frequently because I become so enmeshed whenever I'm doing something I'm passionate about. I'm a ball of chaos. I write down ideas in a huge jumble over many pages and many colors, but not in any sort of organized, color-coded way, more like confetti rainbow of random words and doodles. I also need to move the whole time I'm thinking about something new. I cannot do something the same way more than once. So after sharing all this, a few things kind of like when I wrote all this stuff down, a few things came back at me. So one, I'm not very kind to myself. I did not get these ideas in a vacuum, but I'm the one that now feeds these thoughts and shame. So with growth in mind, I'm working on looking at this part of me as an important part of me that makes me whole. Instead of plucking it out like a thorn in my side, growth for me looks like supporting myself. So something small, I threw out a traditional planner this summer so I can write down ideas in a huge jumble over many pages. I do not follow a daily routine where and when I can. I go walk the track at Horlick High School, just repetitively walking lap after lap to think through new ideas. So why do I bring this up? One, the ways that someone handles time management is something that society loves to attack. And two, my spouse here is opposite to me, so it's an easy comparison for me to make. So if we take a minute to talk about expectations from society on these sort of traits in humans, I'm gonna do a few comparisons. So which is celebrated in our culture? Spontaneous versus non-spontaneous. I think spontaneous. Which is attributed more to most fun? Probably spontaneous. Which is celebrated in our culture? Organized versus unorganized. Organized, yeah. And which is more celebrated in our culture? Being imaginative or rigid thinking? Imaginative. But most individuals do not hold all of the above celebrated traits. Most people are not spontaneous, organized, and very imaginative. Usually you're some mix of those. And on top of that, these comparisons are all black and white thinking and judgment of other traits, which is so prevalent in our culture. If we are all sacred and whole as we are, then how can we ever possibly rank our own traits compared to others? So if I go back to my time management style, I now have a deeper understanding and appreciation of myself and reclaim my flaw as a positive innate trait that makes me me, that I now affectionately call chaotic creativity. But now that I see the strength in me, what if I rank this as the highest possible trait in the best possible time management style? Does that mean people who are opposite to me, like my spouse, are worse than me? I'd like us to really consider that question, so I'm going to repeat it though. If someone is opposite to myself, are they worse than me? Said in another way, if I expect others to have the same strengths as me, is that accepting others as sacred and whole? So my spouse, he likes to wake up early and do all of his chores long before I even rise, and I get up around 6:30 in the morning. He has much more of a daily routine. He is very organized. He writes in teeny, legible handwriting in straight lines. He plans, he keeps track of time. I have often felt so jealous. Maybe I should just wake up earlier. Surely that's the answer. Maybe if I stop writing so dang big, I could also write in straight lines. But personality traits are not competition. Neither is better than the other, and neither trait is a flaw. When we honor that everybody is sacred and whole, it means 0 traits are flaws. It means we are sacred as we are in our home. One of us has chaotic creativity and is spontaneous. The other, my spouse, is steady and organized and keeps our family on track. So what I'd like to call everyone to do is to join me in rethinking our own flaws first. Then it can become a natural relooking at perfectionism and flaw finding in our community and our culture. When thinking of all flaws, our own or others, you could ask yourself, is this a flaw or is it perfectionism talking? Or is it patriarchy? Or is it just being a human? So that finishes my message. Next we have a hymn, 1031. Filled with loving kindness. And I'll say it again since we don't have programs this month. It's 1031, filled with loving kindness. So for the chalice extinguishing, we extinguish our chalice and hold onto the light shared in this community, the light that fills in each of us, reminding us we are connected, held always in a larger love. For these closing words, I'm reading words by Ashley Hetherington. I dare you to take off the mask of perfection and show up as you are. Feel the freedom, the relief, the lightness, because when we are real, that's when we actually heal, and those around us just might heal too. So please stay seated after the postlude for an update from your contract minister search team. And now the postlude.
Good morning. My name is Suzanne Landis, and I bring you this morning an update from the search team on our search for a contract minister. As you already know, the search team was unable to find an interim minister in our April and May search, and though several applicants were interested, other churches may have ranked them higher in their priority list, and matches are made according to the ranking on the both applicant and church lists. At this point, we are in a search for a full-time, on-site contract minister. Unlike other categories of UU ministers, contract ministers can apply anytime during the church year, and they can stay 1 or 2 years, or they can even become a church's settled minister by mutual agreement. Recently, we have had 2 contract applicants who proposed ministry that was very different from what we were expecting. The first wanted what is called a hybrid ministry, one where they would spend about 1/3 of their time on location here, including 2 Sundays, and do ministry the rest of the time by Zoom, phone call, or other remote means. This applicant considered their proposal to be full-time ministry with full-time pay and full-time benefits. Our most recent applicant wanted a hybrid ministry in which all preaching would be done via Zoom, with pastoral care, board coaching, small groups, and other consulting services done virtually. There would be some in-person contact on a quarterly basis. And while ministering to Obuuc virtually, they would also continue serving as a full-time, settled, in-person minister at another UU church. The transitions office advised that we might have more applicants if we would consider a hybrid or a virtual ministry. But after discussing these options, our search team feels that a full-time, on-site minister would work best for our present considerable needs. So, we will continue the contract search, and if we get no full-time applicants who are a good fit, the next step would be to enter another interim search next April. A second option would be for us to search for a developmental minister beginning in late January. Developmental ministers have an average tenure of 5 to 7 years with a congregation similar to the average tenure of a settled minister. Considering the many important issues presently facing Obuuc, a developmental minister might be a choice for us to consider, something for us to talk about going forward. The search team feels that it's really important for us to be transparent and share with you both the possibilities and the realities. You should know that if we do not get a contract minister, it will be August 1st, 2025, before we will either have a new interim or a developmental minister in place. It is still possible that we could have a contract applicant who would want a full-time on-site position, but at this point in the search year, we were told that it is less likely. This means that Obuuc's ministry may have to be lay-led for the next 12 months. To do that successfully, the many creative and committed members and friends of this congregation will need to come forward to assist and support our ministry in a number of areas, including worship leadership, pastoral care, and other ongoing needs. If we all step up in whatever ways we can, and many are already doing so, that will go a long way in helping to bring us through to August 1st, 2025. And we truly believe that we have both the ability and the resources to do this if it becomes necessary, and I'm going to repeat that. We do believe that we have both the ability and the resources to do this if it becomes necessary. Yes? Yes. The search team will keep you informed about any new developments in our search process. If you have any questions, if you need clarification or ideas to share, you may contact our search team members by phone, by email, or talk with us at coffee hour. Our team members are Carolyn Churchill, Mary Graham, Carl Hubbard, Corey Mason, and me. Thank you.